Hey, it's August. It's August. Yes, it is. It's August the 2nd, 2023, and you know why you're here, so let's kick this off right and introduce the players. Hey, I'm Jarisar, a WoW esports aficionado.
Hey guys, it's Big Man and I play World of Warcraft 2.
Hey, it's Trecep JK, and I'm also an enjoyer of the World of Warcraft.
And today we're joined by Curney, who has been playing in some of the recent AWC tournaments, been a rank 1 healer for quite a while. Actually knew Curney back in Miss Pandaria, but why don't we let Curney introduce himself? So Curney, tell the audience about your history playing WoW.
Okay, so I started playing when I was maybe 8 years old, and I've been playing pretty much on and off with some long breaks here and there. But since Shadowlands, I've been playing the whole time, and that's pretty much it.
Cool. Uh, what's your most memorable moment, would you say? What's something that, if somebody asks you that, like, what's something that really stands out in your history of playing WoW?
Um, I would say it was probably my first gladiator was really like a good feeling. Like yeah, I had to like fight really hard for it. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, it was nice. Played with like the same people for a couple seasons, and then yeah, once we finally got it done, it was a good feeling.
That would be awesome. I'm sure. Do
Yeah.
do you still ride that mount? Is that like the go-to that you hop on, or do you?
Yeah, I busted out here and there. Depends on the mug, of course.
Oh yeah, you got to match, right?
Yeah, always.
Style is important. Style is very important. If you're
I
not looking
agree.
good, then there's no point.
Some people don't agree, but I prioritize. You can't play good without looking good.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's
I heard,
that's
I heard I heard it's plus 10% DPS if you have a good mog.
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
Well,
exactly.
or plus 10% healing, I guess, for Curney.
No,
Yeah.
no, I prefer the damage.
Well,
Sometimes I remember in Legion we used to kind of get in the absolute worst mog you could ever think of, just to kind of distract people. Just be like, people would running at you, and you just look terrible, and they're just like, "Oh, I can't even remember which buttons I'm meant to press. Look how terrible that transmog is," and then we win. It's just a bit. It's all mind games.
I won't lie. There's some people that look so hideous that like I have to train them into the ground every game. Like
That's also true.
it's a good strat.
Mm, it is. It is.
e- either you distract with the ugly, or you attract the worst with the ugly. So,
You track the hornet's nest in the form of
indeed,
Curney.
indeed. Speaking of Hornet's Nest, though, actually, I want to get right into this. I want to get into the need, greed, and pass, and then like roll into as fast as we can into the subject analysis, because we're gonna be talking about holy priests, and I feel like there's a lot to talk about for this one. I don't want to labor too much into this, but let's do the need, greed, and pass first, and see what Big Brand came up with us for us.
This likely won't be a clean fight, so keep your distance, eh?
Indeed. Let's kick an instance and find out what we're doing for need, greed, and pass. So, as always, for this one, if you're listening along, by all means, live, say it in chat. If you're listening at home, hop over to the Discord, and we'll have the thread there for you to say what your choices are for Big Moran's need, greed, and pass. But on to you, Big. What's the scenario? What do we got going on today?
Yeah, so this entire expansion, people have been complaining about healing. It's maybe not as fun as it used to be, but no one can really figure out why. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons maybe why healing seems a bit more difficult or is a bit less fun than it has been in previous expansions. And this sort of this attitude is prevalent from PvP to Mythic Plus and probably even rating. I'm not sure about rating, but I know right now, at least Mythic Plus, there's been a few complaints about healers, and PvP, obviously, there's been a few complaints. So today we need to fix that problem. So we're going to give healers some changes that could make healing a bit easier or a bit more fun. So we have 3 different options. And among these options, we're going to need one, we're going to greed one, and we're going to pass on one. So option number 1 is we just increase the healing of every healer spec by a flat percentage. This is probably the most boring solution if you ask me, not to be too biased, but this is something that maybe Blizzard could do. They could just bump everyone's healing. Number 2, we reintroduce the Relentless Trinket, but only usable by healers. This, of course, might be to address the complaint that there's a lot of CC in the game. Even though Blizzard already hasn't nerfed the duration of every CC in the game, it still feels like there's quite a bit when you're playing against some comps. Our third option is we increase healer damage output by 20 to 30%. this is to kind of address the problem that a lot of healers have, that you don't really feel a sense of agency when you heal. You can't really influence the outcome of the game nearly as you want to, as much as you want to. So we can bump healer damage up by a certain percent. So our three options. Option number one, we increase everyone's healing of all the healing specs. Number two, we give healers the ability to play with Relentless Trinket. Or number three, we increase healer damage by a considerable margin. So one of these we have to need, one of these have to greed, and one of these we have to pass. So I guess, Curney, since you are the healer for today, which one of those options would you prefer, and which ones would you prefer less, and which one would you pass on?
Okay, well, I would like to start by saying uh all of it is kind of subjective too, because like different healers have different strengths. Like some already do so much healing, some barely do any damage, right? That's something to consider. But let's say everything was fair for every healer, I would go need the damage, greed the healing, and pass on the relentless trinket. I really do not like what Rally Trinket like promotes in the game. I think that it's not really a great design. Uh, yeah, that's what I think. I think CC should be rewarded if you get it, and Rally kind of promotes maybe like a do nothing, just heal and eat the CC and move on with your life kind of gameplay. I think it always has promoted that, and yeah, so I would take the damage because I think the game should always be faster than it is slower, and yeah,
Nice. I was kind of predicting this this response a
Yeah.
little bit.
that's the type of
Um,
healer I've always been. I just want to win
yeah,
the game.
yeah. Jake or Garrison, what about you? Because I know you guys don't really play healers. I'm curious what you guys would do.
I played healer one season in I think it was Mop, and I played Lock Shaman Druid, and I didn't do very well. So that's why I stopped healing. But from my limited experience of healing and obviously playing with it, and I've obviously played a lot of classic as well recently, a lot more than I probably should do. I think I think I have to agree with Curney quite a lot, because the reward for actually like setting up CC chains and doing all that just feels so much better than being absolutely smacked to death by so much micro CC. Like, doesn't matter how long it is. Like, if it's short and just kind of no one stays in it long enough, but it's kind of there and it's just disruptive, it just doesn't feel that great. So for me, I'm gonna say I'm actually gonna need on increasing healer damage output, just because I think in the in sort of the in the way we are, like, as retail goes, I feel like more and more healers have just more input into setting up kills and kind of being kind of like helping with the damage, like on with certain like classes and specs that just don't do as much maybe in the meta. It would give more specs maybe a bit more viability. So I think that's why I would go for need on that. I think I'm gonna greed the increase the healing of every healer by a flat percentage. I think I'm a big believer in small like buffs and nerfs, so like 5% maximum, and kind of like but more frequently, so that we can balance the game for as it develops. And I think that's the kind of love and attention that WoW would need in order for it to be a properly balanced game. So I think that would be my greed, just because I think it'd be nice to see like some of the other healing specs that aren't doing so great kind of be brought up. And then I'm also gonna pass on the Rally Trinket, because I'm not a massive fan of it, and I didn't enjoy Orc Racial either. And it's all that kind of reduction of CCs just is not as great for the game, I think.
Well
Looking for
said.
the reward side of it. Risk reward is important. That makes you feel good.
Agree.
True.
And Garrison, what about you? What do you think?
Oh, this
As
is
as a
hard.
non-healer.
As a non-healer. As a non-healer that tried healing once and hated it. So I don't disagree that I think the CC is kind of annoying. Like, we already recognize, we've talked about this so much about, you have the hard CC chains, you have all these little micro CCs. If somebody chains it out properly, you could probably just take your hands off the keyboard and walk away for about a minute, because you could eat that much CC, depending on the comp you're up against. I think that real it seems like from what everybody says about healing from the healer point of view, what the thing that irks everybody mostly about healing is more in the rated solo shuffle part, and it's the lack of comms. It's you know the healer that's stuck in some sort of a CC while their DPS runs around and losses them on a pillar, and then complains that the healer didn't heal them and stuff like that. Like I think that's the stuff that really aggravates people. Now, I but the problem is I agree that I don't think relentless is the right answer, but I understand that if we're looking at what's already in the game, a reintroduction of relentless would assist a healer. At the same time, though, like then you have to give up another trinket, right? So then, what other trinket are you giving up? Because you're still going to want medallion for your one-time use, your on-use CC break, right?
Yeah,
So,
we would assume that you can only play Medallion or Relentless. Just,
uh,
the
oh boy,
Mind if I say something as well?
sure, Curney.
One thing about Relentless Trinket also being like reintroduced theoretically or whatever is the flat CC change that was done throughout the game. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you were to introduce Relentless on top of that, then CC would be even more irrelevant. Like people like let's say you were just an R druid and you were playing a comp with people that could support you. Like R druids, one of their weaknesses is that they can die, right? Versus
Yeah,
certain things. But imagine an R druid that could just sit every stun if they pre-bared and they would never die. And then on top of that, your CC on them to kill his teammates is also extra short because of the new CC change plus relentless. I think like R Druid and H Pal and things that just have like HOTS or just insane like throughput healing would just completely dominate the game. Like that change alone, like the relentless, would hurt like Holy Priest so much compared to other healers, which would like lead to even more disparity in like the healer
yeah.
balancing.
I think that's the thing is that it's trying to find something that would work. Like I see where relentless would do that would help out with some of the CC stuff. Um, I guess the thing, I guess the part I'm really questioning is how much does the current with the changes they made to CC and that is CC really that much of the obstacle that disheartens people from playing healer? Um, so and enough of that. I guess time to make some choices, right?
Yeah, you got to make those choices. We'll judge you, but like you've got to make them.
so I think really I'm going to be a little devil's advocate, but I'm going to say let's do relentless. Maybe not in the form that it was at first with the 20% reduction, but maybe something a different tweak to it. So not an exact copy, but I think the relentless would definitely help a healer in being able to manage CC, especially in solo shuffle when people aren't communicating very well or at all.
What
So I'm
about
gonna,
it just being like a solo shuffle thing? Like in that instance,
yeah,
in this version of it, this is something for solo shuffle when you can't communicate and you can't do that.
yeah, maybe, and that could also be the thing. Um, Either way, but yeah, I'm gonna need that just from that point of view only, and then I'm going to greed on the healer damage, and I'm gonna pass on the flat percentage of the healing output, because I want to say I feel like healers have enough output. I feel like they have enough that they could probably sustain uh, with the talents and the spells they already have. So that's mine. Tear me apart if you want.
Putting you on the
Yeah,
cross, mate.
I
I'm
mean,
kidding.
I think as a healer and especially as a druid, I think having more damage would be really fun. So that would be what I would need.
Mm-hmm.
I know they recently buffed druid damage, and actually it's actually quite decent now, but it still feels a bit lacking. Like you don't have as much. I mean, we're gonna get into this later. Like holy priests have like a a pretty big damage sequence they can do. You don't
Oh
really
yeah.
have that as druid, and so you only have pretty much your one star surge. Maybe Moonfire if you're playing like this other talent. So having more damage across the board would be fun. I always like just casting Wrath as a healer. It feels really fun.
Yeah, it'd be cool if Wrath did some damn.
Yeah. So I think I'd increase healer damage. And then the other two I'm kind of torn. Like I understand the problems that Relentless creates, and that that can be really annoying, especially like I've been playing Rogue, and playing Rogue against Relentless is just kind of irritating for multiple reasons. Um so probably I would agree on increasing everyone's healing or every healer's healing output. Um I think that's always fine. I mean, right now, yeah, the problem is people just kind of die. Like what tends to happen in solo shuffle or in arena is like the way people die in arena these days is they either just get clapped, like 50% to
Mhm.
zero really, really quick by something, or um well, that's pretty much it. Like that's usually how people die. Is you don't have something you don't have a way to mitigate a lot of damage, so maybe you can offset that by just having slightly more healing. Um, and so yeah, I'm gonna pass on Relentless, I think. Even though I do get annoyed at, I think the micro CC is the problem in WoW. Like the
It is, yeah.
tiny little, you know, yeah, the silent. It's not the kidney shot into blind the sap. Like that's annoying, but I mean that's kind of whatever. It's the fact that there's like a silence and like out of it, and that like lasts a decent amount of time. It's like all these little small things that kind of
Mhm.
ruin your ability to like play cohesively. I think is the most irritating part. Or getting Dragon's Breath, for instance. Like
Yeah.
polymorph, I don't care about. Getting DB'd, that's annoying. Like that's the annoying part of playing healer.
Warriors have this thing now as well with that what's it called? The shockwave as on top of having Stormbolt and stuff, instead of like I just end up sort of like one connects and then you're Stormbolted and then you get the other side, you get there, and then the shockwave comes out. And it's kind of like, yeah, I know DRs, but it's just so annoying that every time you sort of like you're chasing someone else, or you're on like a mage, for example, and you're queuing into like a mage warrior, and you just the mage is blinked, you've then procced another sort of route, and you've got to get all these routes out of the way, and then you got to get through the storm bolt, and it's just like it feels like everything. There's so much of everything to kind of stop you from doing anything, and I don't
Yep.
know. I just maybe I'm just like high on some serious amount of copium, but every time I'm like on like Wrath, like the exact same thing happens to me, but I never feel like I'm upset about it because the game's a little bit slower and that the kind of pacing's a little bit more
Well, it's
chilled.
like I think a good example of getting annoyed by micro CC is like unholy DKs.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
True.
I played some twos last week and queued into unholy DKs, and it's like landing a cyclone is like that's a chore. You have to go through like an infinity amount of stops, and just when you think you've made it through like every single one, like there's like a pet kick or something, and it's like, oh man, like I just wanted to cast a clone, like this sucks. But there's a million things in my way.
Just let me clone you, bro. Come on.
Exactly. What are you
Roll
doing?
over. Get CC'd.
Get
Please.
C- get CC'd, please.
Woo woo.
I, now I want to see an AWC team called Get CC'd.
Get
Woo-woo.
CC'd, yeah. Woo woo.
All right. Well, I think that was a really good one. I love the conversation there. Thanks, Big. Just a reminder again, everybody live, feel free to need greet and pass in chat. Otherwise, again, head on over to the Discord and we'll have the thread over there. In the meantime, we'll talk quickly about the upcoming PvP events.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
All right, PvP events. So, only thing going on right now are the Blizzard events, at least that I'm aware of. We got the Great Push has been happening. Group C is going to be this weekend, and that's going to be the last group, and that will inform which teams are going to make it to the grand finals. First, though, before we get to the MDI grand finals, there's going to be the AWC Gauntlet and grand finals on the 11th to the 13th of August, and then the MDI grand finals are going to be the 18th to the 20th of August. So, I'm really hyped. I can't wait to see AWC come back to Twitch and YouTube at least for one more weekend before BlizzCon. So I don't know. Are you guys who are you guys cheering on for? Big, who are you cheering on for the AWC?
I mean, tentatively, I mean, the team I always wanted to win Like no offense, Curney, but the team I always want to win is like Peekaboo's team. I like that the Golden Guardians. I think they play like a very aggressive, and I think that's really cool.
We'll see how it is.
Yeah. And then on EU, I don't know. Like I like EU needs to like they need something to happen there because it's like you every single AWC tournament for the past 3 years, I swear to God, has been the same like outcome, like the same progression in the tournament. Like, oh, Swapsy's team gets locked down to losers. Okay, Waz's team is in winners in the grand finals. Let's see if Swapsy can beat Asgarath, and it's like then one of those teams has to fight against Waz. So I'm not really ever that excited about EU too much. Even though I think I like watching Waz's team play and want Waz's team to win. Um, so yeah, I think for NA, I like when Peekaboo's team wins.
All right.
I'm just here. NA is the better region for entertainment, in my opinion.
100% agreed.
Despite the fact that I am obviously from EU, I actually have to agree. Like the last AWC, EU is boring, and it's not because like they're not playing amazingly. It's just because it's just so one sided. Like Echo are going to win. It's just going to happen. Like they might lose a game, and oh man, that's the big upset. Oh, I can't believe they went one game down. Oh no, it's the end of the world. And then they come back and they smash it. And that's obviously great and all for them. But from a viewer point of view, it's like okay, yeah, we have one team that's incredibly good and just no one else. Whereas on NA, with the fact that Golden Guardians were doing great, Liquid were doing really well, and kind of competing with I'm going to butcher the name, but it's Kawaii. That's it,
They're
right?
Luminosity now.
That's it. Yeah, there we go. Luminosity. Yeah. I can't remember which one it was now, but yeah, that like the fact that the three of them are actually kind of at the same level and competing with one another, and you actually can't tell who is going to win is actually really exciting. And I think it kind of reminds me of the BlizzCons of old, where the two regions were combined, and it was kind of you didn't know, like, okay, it would be Echo up against some of the best from NA, and they actually probably might not win this one, and someone else. It's just more exciting when you don't know for certain what the result is.
Very true. I yeah. I don't know who I don't know who I'm going to cheer for. I'm kind of so obviously there's always you always have that fanboy moments for Liquid and Golden Guardians and Luminosity. That Dukemified team, they're pretty good. Not gonna lie, they're pretty good.
They're all right.
They're all right. I'm gonna cheer on for F tier though, because man, I love the underdog and watching what they did in the last cup there. It's I just want to see what they can do on the gauntlet. Not gonna lie. At least that's for the NA side. EU side, I mean, I'm gonna cheer for Echo because I think Echo is gonna win it. Like you said, it's almost a certainty. They're just so strong.
If they want to change like our minds and like come up with a good team, but this is the problem. Like I think maybe it's just the team comps, like the people. Like Echo has got the best combination of EU players. Like with obviously Chanimals has been NA for such a long time, but with Chanimals and Mare and Waz and Raikou, like they are just the apex.
Yeah.
In the EU, and what we need is another super team to come in and kind of compete. And like Wildcard Gaming was that for such a long time, but it sort of seems to too many people who I guess have been banned, and we kind of lost the sort of that kind of competitive edge in the EU, which I guess in the end is just say like stop doing silly things and stop getting banned, please.
That would be nice. I do like the fact that the bans have allowed for some other players to get into the limelight and have more opportunity as well. So it kind of worked out.
For sure.
For sure. Just because I'm kind of curious, Curney, what teams are you going to cheer on for?
I'm cheering on for my team. There's not been one moment where we didn't think that we could win the whole thing. I wouldn't even compete if I didn't think that we could win. So I believe in us. And then for EU, then yeah, it is Echo. I've wargamed them in Shadowlands back when like before they had Chan,
Hmm.
and obviously like I never really play EU, so fighting like them wargaming us or whatever was like the first time I got to feel them as a team, and something that like me and Calvish talked about like after fighting them, and like we were this in Shadowlands, like we were really good at RMP, like definitely the best
Hmm.
in the region by a mile. And when we fought them, they completely crushed us, and we didn't get destroyed individually. Like I think in terms of individual skill, I think our team was like really close to them. It was just how good they played as a team. That was the only thing, and I could feel it instantly. Like as
Hmm.
a holy priest in Shadowlands, I used to like take a lot of pride in like I was the hardest player to CC in the entire game back then, and they got to me. They would like triple run at me as a team, and I've never been under that much pressure. And it was like it's so hard to describe because it wasn't like, oh, the rogue is doing this or the mage is doing it was just all three of them were just one unit, and it was so
Wow.
obvious that they were just a way better team than we were. Like, and that was it. It wasn't individual skill, even though they're all gods, obviously. It was just how good they are as a team. And I think the same thing applies right now for them as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really key insight there because I would say like majority of competing players are of a, like individually of the same level, like across the board, like everyone's incredibly good,
Yeah.
and it's just that synergy with each other and the way that they
Yeah.
play, and I guess um, your battle strats as well and how you react to certain people's movements and things. I think Waz is really good at that, from what I
Yeah.
can recall from by watching him. It's just the ability to adapt and change your strats depending on what people do, and but then also your teammates to pick up on that, those sort of subtle hints in your gameplay
Yeah.
and voice and everything is crazy.
Yeah. Like one example is like, even if I were to Deathmez Chas or Fade of Blind or something like Raikou would 100% of the time off of any CC, he would get a random half ring on me. And then off the half ring, they would find something else. And it was like, this is before the CC change, but it didn't matter if I outplayed them at all. They would find a way to continuously get other CC, even if I was like doing something good or my team like helped me get away. Like they were just like an unstoppable force running at me. And no team has ever done that to me ever to this day. No team has been able to like put me under that much pressure to with just like their presence alone. Like
Wow.
they just played on top of me, and it was like the hardest games I've ever played.
Yeah, I mean, this is if you ever wanted to hear any reason why we need to get sort of lands back in, that's
Yeah,
one of them. I think
Oh
100%.
yeah.
100%. I've really been hoping that they would come back since I've returned to WoW, and yeah, hopefully next year. I think Blizzard's really dropping the ball in terms of that. There's no reason to not have a LAN, and like we've never seen aside from the cross region, which is obviously there's a lot of ping disparity, and it's
Hmm.
to some extent that's not the highest level of gameplay is when two people are playing on different ping, and Prev is playing from
Yeah.
New Zealand, so when he's on EU he has 350 ping. Like we haven't seen those teams fight each other, and they're obviously, even though Luminosity hasn't had a season to their normal standards, to me they're still the best team in the game.
Hmm.
Maybe aside from Echo, obviously I haven't fought Echo, so like I can't really say who's better, but I fight them all the time, and regardless of their performance, they're still the best team in NA by a mile. And like yeah, we've never seen them play against each other on equal footing.
Yeah. I I do know from the times that we talked with Adrian and David before that, that the intent was always to bring back lands. I think it's just lining up those and when and where and how, right?
Yeah,
And I feel like because we haven't seen anything about WoW esports being a uh, a show during BlizzCon. It's only been the Overwatch League that they're talking about for the LAN there. So I suspect that we'll probably see in 2024, probably something in Cleveland, Ohio again at the
yeah, I've heard a little bit about it.
yeah. I suspect that's what it'll be. But well, how Curney, are we ready? Can we scratch your brain about Holy Priest and figure out what makes that
Sure.
such an angel of a of a spec?
I see what you did there. Sure.
All right, let's do this.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
All right. Holy Priest. Yeah. So, quick, quick and dirty. Well, maybe not dirty. Maybe into some details. But how does Holy Priest play in PvP?
Well, to me, this is how I look at Holy Priest, especially in Dragonflight. It's similar. The idea is similar to Shadowlands, but it's obviously a lot different because um, I'll start off by saying Holy Priest is worse in almost every single way than it was in Shadowlands, which obviously it was like the best healer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, there's only one thing that's better in Dragonflight than in Shadowlands, and that's the fact that you can have stun and 30-second fear, whereas before it was a choice node, where if you
Mm-hmm.
played stun, your fear would be a minute cooldown. That change alone is the only thing that is better. But the same thing applies to me. I look at it as a very offensive healer. It can like verse the right things, it can like last a long time, but its true strengths come from its offensive capabilities, range CC, purge, MD, and also a lot of damage.
Neat. And which I think that's something that is also, well, I guess is something that changed in Shadowlands, but Holy Priest wasn't normally known for the damage that they did, right?
um yeah, I would say, well, I mean, it's hard for me to say because like I skipped a bunch of expansions, so I can't really speak on like I don't know if Holy Priest was good in Legion or BFA. And it definitely wasn't good in WAD, but in
No.
MOP, it did provide like pretty good damage,
Okay.
from what I remember. But it was mainly the healing output, which made it really, really strong back then.
I think specifically in Shadowlands, the Holy Priest had a bigger multiplier on mind games. They had
It did,
I think
yeah,
their mind games hit the hardest out of all three priest specs. I think it maybe hit harder than Shadow. It definitely hit harder than Disc.
it did because Disc was soft nerfed on all damage.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
mind games used to. I mean, mind games is it's okay now, but in
It,
Shadowlands that was a beast of a spell. Like
oh, and it was able to be used in like way more ways than it is used now. Like there was a lot of times in Shadowlands where I would use mind games to get a dispel, so then me and my team could send Maledicts, or
yeah.
I could even mind games a druid on his OG, and he would have to dispel it, otherwise his hots would just completely crank the other team. And I used to win so many games on just a micro, like if I couldn't get to the DPS, mind game's the guy. He has to use a dispel global because there was almost no like instant heal that could break the damage threshold that it would
Mm-hmm.
reverse. But now, um, I guess like we'll talk about it later with the talents, but unfortunately, it was so good in Shadowlands because of the conduit. Uh, the conduit was crazy. It was
Yeah.
very powerful, which is why I opted to play Venthyr almost the entire expansion when I played RMP, except for like during the end of the meta or whatever, during Outlaw where like Night Fae was definitely better. But I played Venthyr pretty much more than everybody else in NA because Door of Shadows was crazy, and I always wanted to have mind games. But now if I were to mind games a healer, or if I get mind games on my healer, I just laugh at it. A lot of people like don't realize it. I think some people don't
Yeah.
actually know. But if I was like on an R druid or something, which like I played all the healers a ton this expansion, like if I was low or something and they mind games me, I'm just pressing frenzy and laughing about it. Like they will not kill me. It just doesn't reverse the damage that it did. So like now, unfortunately, it's kind of one dimensional, and you just use it for damage.
Hmm. That's unfortunate.
It is. It was a
That was a
cool
fun
idea.
spell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like I liked like obviously like some of the trinkets were a little ignorant, but in Unchained, I
Mm-hmm.
used to just be able to set my team up. I just mind games in the healer. He has to dispel, insta maledict the dispel, and then boom, the game was over. And I used to have a lot of power like that, and I could just end a game whenever I wanted, and I miss that a lot.
So aside from damage, though, I mean, your healing rotation is slightly different now, but still relatively the same. I mean, Serenity was really broken in Shadowlands, and now it's not nearly as good as it was, right? It's
Yeah,
slightly weaker. and you have to
You have to
cast a
cast
lot
a
more.
lot
Yeah.
more. Yep. And
Hmm.
there's a few reasons or a few reasons why. Um, I'll just start by saying like the Shadowlands, like the Holy Priest was so good for um their conduits were all insanely good. Like there was almost not a bad one for like because you had to have like the defensive one and then the finesse and then whatever the other one was.
Endurance.
And yeah, and they're all of the choices that you needed like to have, they were all really good. Um like for finesse, you had the short grip, and then all the potency conduits were just insanely good for Holy Priest. And they're like obviously they're talents now.
Hmm.
Um, but the problem with Holy Priest, uh, it's the problem with not only Holy Priest. This goes for every single class that hasn't been reworked. Is all the choice nodes that have two points, right? Holy Pally is so good in the rework because you can get so many talents because there's barely any two choice nodes. But if you were to look at the Holy Priest talent tree, going down towards like the bottom half, there's one, two, three, four, five choice nodes where you need to have two in there. That I
Hmm.
have right now. And if I had more talent options, then I could have something like Resonant Words, which was one of the conduits you used back then, where
Hmm.
you use a holy word and increases the healing of your next flash or heal. And that conduit was crazy good because you used heal a lot, so it would be like Serenity into heal, and you would be mana efficient, and then your heal would actually be like in your top three in your healing breakdown all the time if you had an efficient rotation.
Hmm.
But in Dragonflight, unfortunately, I don't even have the option to have resonant words. Like I physically cannot take that talent.
Just because of the way
And
the choice notes go.
yeah,
That's.
just because of
Hmm.
what you need on the other side. And it's the same thing with Light of the Naru. There's a CDR talent. It also takes two. I would love. That's why Holy Priest felt so smooth back then, and it didn't have to cast, is because the CDR was so much more powerful than it is now, which obviously makes you have to cast a lot more, which is for sure a weakness in Holy Priest and can be punished by really good players.
It's kind of funny, like one of the ways you avoid interrupts is going into angel form. It's I understand that when you play Holy Priest, you're pressing angel really, really early, like not only for the ability to not be interrupt, but just because it's very mana efficient. You just run in,
Yeah, yeah,
and then like on the first go or whatever, for 20 seconds in the game, you've usually pressed your angel.
yeah.
Um,
It's like one of those trades that you just always do. I see a DK bomb limb on the grip opener. I'm angeling without hesitation, without question. It just just trade the cooldown.
yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, well, one thing too is our priests are, and I understand that you can play holy in a way that's really, really mana efficient. Like you can actually win on mana against other healers. Is that right?
Yeah, I think something about that statement is there's a lot of healers that can win on mana versus I would say that's more matchup dependent, but Holy Priest is definitely one of like the more mana efficient healers generally speaking. Like there's like some classes that just don't do well on mana, like um like a Holy Priest would probably, with the right matchup, like given a Holy Priest would probably out mana a Mistweaver if it was like a caster mirror. I could keep up with our druid in a caster mirror if I were to sneak in some drinks as well. Um, one thing that I generally probably wouldn't out mana is like our shaman. Uh, our shaman is definitely just the king of dampening right now, probably aside
Hmm.
from our druid. And our druid's only like that because of its ability to drink, but that can also be stopped in some circumstances. And I think Dragon also has insane dampening potential with like Disintegrate Talent and then Communion. If you like use like a rotational Communion just for the mana, like it's a long game. Something that like Matt does a lot in those Dragon mirrors is he always try to get the first Commune off, and it's not because he has to heal with it. It's because he's playing for the dampening. And yeah, that
Hmm.
I would say it can keep up with healers in mana, but it is a matchup thing. 1 second, please.
No worries.
I, I I feel
Go ahead.
lost like listening to this sometimes just as like it's like as like a
Okay, I'm back.
non-healer sometimes you listen to you come just sitting there kind of like going, yeah, this is all stuff that I never think about.
I'm happy to
So
hear it.
yeah, no, it's good. No, it's good. It's good. It's good information. So I mean, should we talk about talents then?
Sure, sure.
Because obviously, unlike previous expansions where it was very easy to go through talents,
Yeah, you got
things have
8 of them.
changed.
Yeah, yeah. Now we got the OG talent trees, and there's definitely a lot of options. But I think as the expansion goes on, people are starting to find like, there's not as many options as we really think there is.
Mm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and I feel that way especially on Holy Priest. Like I could play a whole day without swapping almost anything. Like if I were to play like Boomy Rogue or something, like the comp that my team normally plays, or back when we were doing really well with Destro Rogue. Um, Yeah, there's games there's times where like I could just go a whole entire day without swapping things. And I'm sure like, that's somewhat inefficient. Like I guess like I could probably do, but some classes are like, "Oh, I have to swap this into this," or
Hmm.
I need this talent." Like Holy Priest is less so like that. Because you're just kind of locked into so many mandatory things.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's,
I feel that way with Druid. It's like
yeah,
I
yeah,
could change stuff, but it doesn't really matter. Like,
yeah. It's like, oh, I can move a little faster. I could have rake stun. How many times am I gonna rake stun? Oh, I could like get protector of the pack and renewal, but it's like, what do you really need? I would say like the only thing about like our druid is like Kara's is just like one of those talents that's always good. And other than
yeah,
that, like it's like I don't know. It's hard to swap stuff out.
So what do you think of the new talent tree
I enjoy
system?
it for sure. It definitely adds diversity and a lot of options, and I think it because as we saw like with AWC, like Trill, like with
Hmm.
the Trill build we call it,
The one
and
dance.
yeah, and funny enough, like that is the literal 2AT Mythic Plus build
Yep.
without anything swapped, no troll, and I mean everyone memed it for a little bit and didn't take it quite serious. I know my team didn't take it as serious as we should have. But it was good, undeniably good,
Hmm.
um, and undeniably better than what other rogues were playing in certain matchups. And I think that's good for the game. Is having
Definitely.
options and being able to do different things. I think that's how every class should be. But yeah, unfortunately, it's going to take a lot of changes and work to make every class like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Hmm.
Like there's so much. Like this is just the beginning, and it's
Yeah,
a very good start. I've always said that I think a lot of the design in Dragonflight has been fantastic,
yeah.
and everything's been really great, just apart from
I
certain bits and
I think
pieces.
the core design of Dragonflight, like I generally speaking, like I'm pretty disappointed in the direction that the expansion has gone. But
Mm,
at the start, it was looking so amazing,
yeah,
and
Hmm.
for sure.
it was so close to being just completely amazing. And the moment that changed was 10.1.7,
Yeah,
with the first rework, the ret rework.
yeah. All
Um,
all the reworks have been a bit grim.
well, it's like the rework is good and it makes the class flow better and it's designed better, but it just creates a power gap.
Hmm.
Like we saw with Holy Paladin, like I didn't play Holy Pally 1 second this whole expansion. Obviously, like I played a lot of it throughout Shadowlands, and like I got my first Glad on Holy Pally actually, but it's not like I'm like new to the spec. But when Pally got that rework and I logged on Pally and I geared it up, I literally could not lose a game if I tried.
Yeah.
And I knew that like I could be healing more efficient, I could be trading my cooldowns better, but at the end of the day, it literally didn't matter. And that's just how strong they just were based on only a rework.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like every like class design and class balance, most classes are pretty good these days. Like
Yeah, I would
pretty
agree with that.
decent.
Yeah,
And so when you give like a little bit of buffs to something that's already like good, it just becomes like insane. Like I'm terrible at Boomkin, but I was playing Boomkin prior to nerfs, and it was the most fun I ever had in arena. I felt like I was a god,
yeah,
and
that's what exactly what we say too. Like you're
and
the
yeah,
boomy's a god.
it's just so funny. So yeah, I think when you take when classes are already pretty good and have these crazy toolkits, if you just like buff them slightly, they just become insane. And we saw
Hmm.
that with Holy Paladin for sure, and Boomkin, and even right
Yeah,
now like maybe DK a little bit and Windwalker Monk. Like you just Give them a little bit of changes, and that goes a long way these days.
Yeah, the thing is
Yeah.
though, it's not. I don't think it's like they're not necessarily buffing them a little bit. I think that the issue with the balancing them in it is the fact that they're swinging the pendulum left, like full left and full right on a lot of things. And when they nerf classes, they nerf them hard. And when they buff them, it's like bigger buffs than what they really need. Like if everything just was ever so slightly adjusted, but then more frequently, we'd actually probably find that the game would probably homogenize a little bit more. Like at least in damage
Yeah,
wise.
I completely agree, and that also goes the exact same way with nerfs. Like
Exactly.
I played majority. Like I didn't play much Holy Priest this expansion because it just wasn't good. And in my position, like I at this point, like I like to think that I'm a Holy Priest, right? That's been my main
Mm.
since I was a kid, and I would love to play it as much as I can. But unfortunately, as a competitor, I don't have the luxury of just getting to play my main. I have to
Hmm.
log on whatever is better for my team, whatever's better in the meta. And so something like there was a time where Disc was doing crazy damage, and I was having a lot of fun, and I did uh, not to toot my own horn, but I did the most damage uh, on
I
Disc. And
believe it.
there was this solo shove tourney that I played. It was the easy game one, and it was right before those Disc damage nerfs came in, and I won the tourney for the healer, and I won because I could literally just solo people, and it was definitely overpowered. But then came like the nerfs, and they nerfed Sins of the Many, and it's a passive where it decreases your damage done based on how many atonements you have out, right? And so pretty much when they nerf a talent like that, they nerf every single ability for Disc. So after that nerf happened, that was when Disc became broken. Disc hasn't been good since that tournament. Like obviously you guys saw me try to play it in AWC when we got second place to GG. We lost to them twice. We got 7-0 in two series.
Hmm.
And I was playing Disc Priest, and it was embarrassing. Like I'm 0% mana, Sturge is just 70% mana. We're doing the exact same healing, and I'm also struggling so hard to heal that I'm doing 0 damage. So it's like,
Yeah.
why am I even a Disc Priest anymore? And then I realized like if I want to beat that team, I have to be a shaman. And that's it. and
Interesting.
and
Yep.
it's and it's nerfs like that that I'm a massive. I hate them so much because they just nerfed every ability, right? Like there's
Hmm.
certain outliers. The reason Disc Priest did so much damage was because of all the modifiers. It had a million modifiers. Um, and if you did your damage rotation properly, like there was one round in the tourney where I said I'm gonna kill the feral, and I 100 0'd Fuse. Like not 100 0, but like 60 0, and he was in bear form, and I knew 100% that I was gonna kill him. And
Wow.
yeah, he was in bear, just 60% HP, and I just completely crushed him in 4 globals. And like obviously that's not good for the game. A healer shouldn't be able
No.
to do that. But um that's what to me Disc has always been that like Priest in general has always been like an offensive healer. And then when they baseline nerf all those things, every single ability, that's going to make the game or the class almost impossible to fix, right? Because unless they just kind of revert that change and then start taking the right approach, like, okay, let's maybe nerf expiation. Expiation gets nerfed. All right, maybe they're doing a little too much damage. Let's nerf the modifiers a little bit, like the Shadow Covenant Schism. And that's like, obviously, it's a little bit more work for the devs, but when they just do a flat baseline nerf, it
Hmm.
just breaks the class. And,
Yeah.
and I just, now they're trying to like make up for it by buffing atonement over and over again, but that's just not the way the game works. The game like you can't function off of atonement healing because of how high damage is in general in this expansion. Like
Yeah.
it would have to be substantially higher to even consider healing through somebody bursting with atonement. Like
But
eh,
but
yeah.
that's the thing, like Holy Priest though, you have the throughput that so you can damage, but you also have that healing throughput. So you can heal somebody without struggling and not ooming yourself in 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, Holy Priest is definitely it does more damage than Disc. It's better than Disc in every single way besides the cooldowns. That's what
Hmm.
made Disc really strong is obviously two PSs and a dome.
Yeah,
That like and on top of having the two PSs, then you also have CDR on the PSs, which is and Rapture. Rapture was one of the craziest cooldowns ever.
I love
Um,
Rapture.
yeah, before they like nerfed it or nerfed Power Word Shield, like it was almost impossible to kill somebody through Rapture. Um, but But those cooldowns alone just make disc viable because, like I said, um, damage is just so high in this expansion, and it's
Yeah,
why a
it
lot of
is.
people don't have fun healing. And having 0 damage reduction on Holy Priest is just by far its biggest weakness. Uh, and that's maybe it would be a little too OP if it had some dam reduct, but to me, I feel like they should maybe have something like, because Holy Priest feels almost unplayable into like a good sub rogue. Um, like if I were to fight Calvish, he knows exactly how I do my healing because obviously he's played with the Holy Priest. Me and him have been playing together for like 3 years at this point.
Hmm.
He knows exactly how my class works, and he's paying attention to like my serenities, which not a lot of people are good at paying it. Like, so he knows when I have instant healing, and then if he knows when I'm out of instant healing, then he also just knows that okay, I'm gonna be forced to maybe guardian here. So then he's gonna use smoke bomb or duel, and Disc Priest could save somebody in a smoke bomb or a duel with dome or radiances while they're in the duel or something, or in the bomb even. But Holy Priest has none of that. Like if Trill
Okay.
were to just one dance duel somebody, I got no way to move their HP bar one time in that duel, and
Wow.
they're just dead.
But you're able to get like your top holy priest on the ladder,
Yeah,
but it sounds like you're so I guess that's just your skill of being able to play that well and avoid
I
some
think
situations.
I think it's that. Like I do feel like really good at it. Obviously it's my main. And I would love to play it a lot. And something that I was good like I have written down in my notepad is when we talk about the comps. That's something
Hmm.
that enables Holy Priest. If you're looking at it from just like a broad standpoint of like its toolkit, um, then you're not going to really fully understand why it's good or when it's good because the thing is about this expansion is Holy Priest isn't always good. And if it was,
Yeah,
I would try to get away with playing my main all the time. But there's just times where I know that if I lock in Holy Priest, no matter if I could play it better than anyone in the world, I would be, hurting my team by locking it in.
fair enough. Well, let's. So you said that there's a bunch of talents you basically just lock and forget. Um,
Hmm.
what are the main ones, the ones of importance that you're like, obviously there's some
So,
modifiers and some fluff ones
so we're
along
looking
there,
at the
but
class tree, right? We're going in
sure,
order.
yeah,
We're
let's
looking
let's
at
do let's do left side first.
Okay, so I'll just list the absolutely mandatory ones in my opinion.
Okay.
Uh, I guess like we can just go down the list. Of course, as holy, you got to take palm, and then if you're taking palm, you got to take focus mending to the left for 45% increased healing.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, based on how the how my spec like has to lead to get the essentials at the bottom, I take the 15-second fear reduction, and then I take phantasm, which removes all the snares into MC, and then that will allow me to go down to the right side, and I put the one in, and then it's pretty much I'm only the right side talents like after mind control are just only to get to life swap in the most efficient way because
Okay.
you need life swap, and then the path I take is so I can have the 10-second reduction on fade, and then obviously mind games as well.
Hmm.
But the 10-second reduction on fade is completely essential with your new PvP talent phase shift. You just have a chance to avoid CC on a 20-second cooldown that's off global. That's insanely powerful. Um, and then
Wow.
like on the left side, the way it has to be is you have to get down to power word life. All specs of all healing specs of priest cannot function without power word life.
Mhm.
So it's mandatory. And I would say short grip is also mandatory.
Oh,
And on top of that, the double PI. I would say those are all the
yeah.
mandatory talents. You need swap, powered life, short grip, um, and then double PI. And then
Okay.
there's some room to work with like based on matchups. Like I have a choice node where I take like tendrils or something, and if I don't need tendrils, then I'll probably take like fast MD or disease dispel, and like those are like kind of the optional ones. Fast MD, disease dispel, and also inspiration, 5% reduced physical dam. Those are like kind of your play around.
Mhm.
You can move them around if based on matchup talents in the regular priest tree.
What's your thought on feather?
Absolutely essential.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure.
Feather's just fun. That is a fun ability to use.
Yep, it's nice
Well,
to move fast. It is nice.
it's fun, right? Until your feather ends up in the ceiling somewhere, because
Uh, you got to get that macro. Let me know if anyone needs the macro to place it on yourself.
Yeah, I got that macro. Hardcore.
Yep, need that. Had that since Mop, man. That's an old macro.
yeah. Well, that's if you only do it to yourself. You
Well,
don't
I
give it
got
you
two.
don't give
Of
it to your
course, I
friends.
got 2 binds. Of course, I got 2 binds, man.
Surely it's 3. There's a party 1 and 2 as well. Well, unless you're buying
Nah,
one.
that's a little ignorant. I don't need it. I can click it on my teammates. I just like to be able to
Ooh.
put it down on my feet without thinking about it.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
also like just I think it's really bad to not have that macro. Like you're just gonna
Yeah.
be inefficient overall if you have to click and then use some brain power to aim it on your feed, and
Yeah.
then it's also not only is it just one key press, but then it's like 2 key presses or like a key and then a click, and all that adds up
It
in the heat of
does.
the moment.
I remember when I was playing around with disc, and yeah, I didn't know any better. I was dropping feathers up in the ceilings every once in a while. Yeah.
It
It just,
happens.
Party trick. Party
yeah.
trick.
There's a reason why I was a noob back in the day. And I think there's one talent I saw there, apathy, right? It does an RNG slow. Did you talk about that? Or if so, I
Well,
missed it.
well, I kind of like I didn't talk about that one in specific, but
Okay.
it's pretty much just a pathway talent. Um
Okay.
like I said, like a lot of talents, like you're starved for points because of how many take 2.
Mhm.
Apathy is nice because it takes 1 and it goes right down to throws of pain where you unfortunately have to put 2. It's almost a useless talent. 5% damage on your pain. Like you just have to take it just to get to the mind games, into the short fade, into the swap.
Okay. Makes sense.
It's just efficient talent specking.
Okay. Plus, it has an RNG slow, which is kind of nice, I guess.
It's nice when it crits, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't remember a time I won a game from it, but it definitely doesn't hurt.
All right. And then spec side.
Okay.
What's the mandatory there?
Um, so pretty much you have to take Serenity, and then you take Sanctify, which is a 1 pointer, and then you go Guardian all the way down to him, Divine Him. Are you guys showing the talent tree on the screen, or is that
Uh,
what is that?
no. I'm just
Okay, so
letting
if
you.
people, yeah. Okay, let's make sure. Um, but then I go down to Divine Him, and then that allows me to go to the right side. And I also something that I did something different when I started playing Holy Priest. Again, like I picked it up like a few weeks ago again. A lot of people were playing Lightwell. Everybody was playing Lightwell,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sold on it at all. It's a 900 times worse version than Lightwell and Mop. If people remember Lightwell and Mop, it was completely broken.
Hmm.
And I was just a little kid, and I would bug it in a pillar, and nobody could kill it, and they all hated me. And it was awesome. I loved it, but I was never sold on it, so I always opted to Divine Image, and that's what everybody plays now. I was a little bit ahead of the curve on the Divine Image.
Okay.
Um, and I think Lightwell was I tested Lightwell, like extensively tested it, and I found that it was only good in one matchup for me, and that
Oh,
was when we were playing Boomy Rogue and we were fighting Shadow Play, Demo Lock SP.
I can see that.
Because Lightwell is really weak because of its range as well. It has 20-yard range, so if your team isn't playing on it, then it's just a wasted talent. And something about Shadow Play is like we would kill the demo lock, so
Hmm.
we would run in on top of them, all 3 of us, and I'd put my Lightwell almost on his port. So if the lock wanted to kite away from my Lightwell, he would have to run across the map and put a new port down while we're trying to kill them. So it's not really an option. And that was the one matchup where I found that it got really good value. Aside from that, obviously you have to take Miracle Worker. The class would not work if you had one charge of Serenity. It just wouldn't. You would lose every game instantly.
Yeah.
And then there's like a few options. I always play Imperial Blaze on the top right side for the instant holy fires.
Hmm.
And then I always take the talent next to it, Burning Vehemence, would just because it does 30% more increased dam on Holy Fire. That's where the massive burst comes from Holy Priest right now, is
Okay.
that talent. So then I
Y-
guess that leads to the optionals. Sorry if I cut you off.
I was gonna say, yeah, for those of you who are not aware of and play against Holy Priest, they like Holy Fire you for like 90k.
Yeah,
And they get 3 instant ones.
yeah,
So
no, there's times where like I'll just say they're dead. I kill 'em myself. I give that's one of my classic comms is I'll kill myself, just do something good. And that's when I'm letting my team know that I am not healing. I am ending the game. Good luck.
What if you
But
don't end?
well, I hope they live.
That's on them. You told them. They were
Yeah,
informed.
it's their fault, not mine, obviously.
Yeah,
That's funny.
clearly.
I had no idea. 90k holy fires?
Yeah, and
Wow.
and not only that, but chastise itself, like there was paired with like divine image, which I'll talk about in a sec. Like there I can do like maybe 300k damage in 4 globals. And on top of that, your death also hits really hard because holy damage is unnerved. Like I can like holy fire someone for 90k. I've hit 115k chastise, and then on top of that, then boom, it's like a 60k mind games, 80k death. They're dead.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's massive damn. Which
Wow.
is why obviously I enjoy it because that's the way I like to play if I can. But obviously it's not like Holy Priest has no weaknesses because if I could do all this damn and also keep my team alive permanently, I would never lose a game. So
Hmm. But that's that.
so
That's that risk and reward part too.
yeah, exactly. Definitely a give and take. So I like I said, Lightwell, I don't think it's good aside from maybe one matchup, which Demo Lock has always been really hard for any pre-spec to heal. Like we just do really bad into it. It's just perma MS on everything. Disc, it was miserable to fight Demo Lock on. Holy, it's a little bit less, but it still is. But now Demo Lock's not very good, so that automatically makes Holy Priest better, which is why I've been
Hmm.
playing it a bit. So I guess the Divine Image is the next bottom talent I'll take, and what it does is every time I cast a word like a holy word, so Sanctify, Serenity, or Chastise, it summons an image, and then it will like mimic my spells
Yeah.
to a certain extent. Um, and the thing is about divine images, it can stack. So it won't summon multiple of them, but it'll empower them. So like me and Calvish tested this, and like obviously this could never happen in a game, but I used like 2 serenities, 2 sanctifies, a chastise, I reset, I pressed them all, I had like 7 images, and then I hit him with the triple holy fire and I just 100 him because my image was hitting for like 60k, which was crazy. But obviously that's impossible to happen in a game. But it
Yeah.
just goes to show that the modifiers are pretty powerful on
I
it
love it.
for
I
sure.
love it. That's awesome.
And then I guess the optional talents for me are there's Desperate Times, increases healing by 20% on targets at or below 50%. This talent, I wouldn't say until yesterday I would say it was mandatory. I started testing it and I think maybe there's a matchup or two where it's okay to drop it for the APOT reset.
Yeah.
Because with the Holy Priest with the changes like a week or two ago, they changed like Holy Priest talents a little bit. They moved some stuff around and added a new one.
Hmm.
And the new one they added is Epiphany, where I have a 25% chance to reset my palm anytime I use a holy word, and that is really powerful because palm is going to be number 1 or 2 healing 100% of the time, no matter what. And you have a lot of palm modifiers with your tier as well.
Yeah.
So against maybe something that maybe like a really aids LE Boomy or something where there's dots on everyone, SPDK maybe. There's dots on everyone, so palm is bouncing everywhere. That's something where I could maybe see uh Desperate Times being worth dropping for an APOT reset, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to test it more. Desperate Times just is so good because of the way Holy Priest heals, right? You do
Yeah.
insane burst healing, so it doesn't feel good to press Serenity on someone unless they're about 50% HP anyways. And then on top of that, it's an amplifier for your Power Word Life. Power Word Life is the most important button in your toolkit. Messing like having it mess up, like because obviously it functions the same as death in a way, where if you use it at 35%, then it's an 8-second cooldown and it does 400% more healing. But if you don't, then it's going to heal for nothing and then it's a 30-second cooldown. And that when that happens, when I'm trying to use it on Nick or something, and they're going in, and they proc his auto regen, and then his auto regen ticks the same time I'm trying to time a power word life when he's 35%. That is like a really bad thing. You can lose a game off of that alone, because if you're strapped for healing and you don't have an apoth, and then you have no serenities, you have no instant healing, boom, you're forced to cast. Team knows you have to cast. You get kicked one time, game's over, just like that.
Wow.
So,
Hmm.
and that's why that button alone is insanely frustrating to use in solo shuffle, of course, because people are dying, they're scared, they don't know, there's no communication. Boom, they're just I'm gonna Hellstone the same time that you're gonna press power with life, and then they're gonna connect to me, and then I'm gonna die now. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that sucked. GG.
Well, run it back, right?
Yep,
That's
exactly.
all you can do. Um, what
I think
about
that yeah, sorry, go ahead.
what about Symbol of Hope?
Yeah, completely essential.
Okay.
Um, it's an absolute must. It pairs better with certain classes than others. Like, unfortunately for Mage, it resets their images as their defensive cooldown, which is, almost nothing. But then you pair it with a feral druid, and resetting or just any druid, resetting bark skin is unreal,
Hmm.
insanely powerful. Same with like, shamans, like resetting astral shift, like their wall. That's a crazy reset. Like that's probably the most valued one in the entire game, because if you channel a full symbol of hope and they're in range for that, their wall is literally almost completely reset, if not completely reset.
Wow.
And that's their biggest defensive cooldown by a mile.
Yeah.
But then there's things like with Rogue, like I reset Calvish's Crimson Vial, a 30-second cooldown that heals him for nothing. So
Yeah.
it's better for some things, but at the end of the day,
Hmm.
it's always good for you because it also gives you very important mana regen.
Yeah.
And you can cast it in Angel, right?
And you can't
Okay.
cast it in Angel yet.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. I think how big. How do you want to get into the PvP talents now?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess the best way to start off is what are you hard locking almost every
S-
single matchup?
Spirit of the Redeemer, 100% of every single game, non-negotiable.
And that allows you to go into your angel form whenever you want, every 2 minutes.
Every two
Um,
minutes, and also a talent I didn't talk about. It's Afterlife, right under the Guardian talent. It increases the duration by 50% and also increases the range of your healing while in Angel. That is like a very key part, because obviously when you're Angel, you're completely stationary, and it's really easy for your team to have to, you're healing them so that they can play the game, and sometimes the game takes them away from you. So that range is really clutch. Um,
and
and
you
obviously it
can't you
lasts
can't heal
longer.
yourself though, right? When you're an
Nope,
angel, you can.
you cannot. Yeah,
And they can still lost you too, right?
they can loss you as well. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a solo shuffle
Mm-hmm.
special. You know that
Yeah, I couldn't imagine solo shuffle without the 50% increased range. People see that angel and they're gone. They don't care. They said heal me then or something. So yeah.
and as we discussed before, but Angel makes all your spells free and you can't be interrupted, so it's kind
Yep.
of just a nice little button to press if you can get the cast off, if people aren't lossing you and ranging you.
Yep.
Um, Other than that, did you have any hard locked talents?
So I guess this is somewhat um this is where like I said, the comps matter a lot for Holy Priest.
Hmm.
So, like, for what I normally play on Holy Priest is either going to be Rogue Mage or it's going to be Boomy Rogue. Just like, probably I wouldn't play Holy Priest without a sub rogue, generally speaking, with a few like rare, except like Windwalker is good. Like Windwalker Mage Holy Priest would be good. I played some Feral Mage the other day and it was really good until I started fighting Shadow Cleave or SPDK, and then I lost every game. But I would say generally for those comps, my talents are almost pretty locked in into almost everything. And I play phase shift for sure, because in the right hands, that ability can just win or lose a game all the time. Or just win it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the reward is just so insane, and for it to be 20-second cooldown because we take that certain path, so we get the 10 seconds off for improved fade. It's extremely strong if you know how to use it. Um, and then on top of that, my next talent that I not very often swap out in threes based on the comps I'm playing is going to be Ray of Hope.
Yeah,
And
Ray's still always really good, it seems.
Ray is good. It can be outplayed a bit. Like obviously a druid could snipe a clone on it, so you got to be ready to snipe the MD as the timer falls. Or maybe you get smoke bombed, or there's a lot of ways that you can stop a ray from doing what it is. And then on top of that, if you get locked out with a ray, it's almost certainly going negative and then killing your team. Um, which is also why I think it's really good with Boomkin, because there's times where, obviously everyone needs to go the Boomkin in almost every arena, because if you don't, then he's going to spam clones and then you can't win either. So pairing Ray with something that can heal itself is really, really strong. Like there's times where Nick has a weak aura and I ray him, and obviously we're talking about the ray. That's all we're talking about is I tell him like, I have a heal for it, or if I don't, then he'll make his judgment and he could renewal into it or he can frenzy into it. And obviously when you ray somebody, all healing they take is increased by 50%. So his renewal is going to be even more, bear renewal, that's going to make my ray do 350k healing on top of already what it is. So it's really strong with people who can contribute a little bit of healing uh as well.
Nice. Do you ever play Holy Ward into any matchups? I know that used to be a really good talent, but it's been nerfed
Yeah,
maybe a few times.
that's something I'm happy you asked about. I used to love Holy Ward. Obviously it was insanely broken because it was 30-second cooldown with 30-second uptime. So that in itself, is pretty bad design. Like I could just, if no one got my ward off, I was unCCable for the entire game. Unfortunately, since Shadowlands, when they nerfed it that one time, I think the nerf that they did was absolutely horrible, because a lot of priests didn't really use Holy Word this way. I think me and Calvish kind of maybe revolutionized this a little bit. But back in the Shadowlands, when it was RMP town, Holy Ward had so many different uses. Like
Mm.
I could Holy Ward Calvish like on a go. I could get it like there's times I would snipe a kidney on him, just with a instant ward him, get the kidney. Now they'd have to go in cheap shots. If they go in cheap shots, he's an orc with cheat death, right? Like then I know that I probably don't have to use any cooldowns then. But unfortunately, it's 45-second cooldown with I think the uptime is maybe like 15 seconds. I really
Mm-hmm.
wish the nerf was keep the 30-second cooldown, give it 5-second uptime. I don't think that would be too oppressive at all, because what is waiting 5 seconds for a go, right?
Hmm.
But instead, I think with that nerf, they made that talent completely garbage. I don't think I've spec'd Holy Ward maybe one time. I think maybe, there's a matchup where like Ray isn't going to get much value, or maybe I don't even need Ray. Like I would say probably like into some type of rogue team, maybe hunters, something like that. It's probably more viable in twos, but in threes, it's just unplayable. I think for me, just a 45-second cooldown is just it's not viable in my opinion.
Makes sense.
And that and then I see this occasionally in Solo Shuffle, but Sanctified Ground. I mean,
That
sometimes it can seem a bit troll, but maybe it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you look at it generally speaking, like it's not a bad talent, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think mechanics where it removes the ability for people to move, obviously like Earthen is like a pretty toxic mechanic, like for everybody, it's toxic for the shaman whose teammates run out of them, and it's toxic for the DPS who have to stand in it. Um similar similar things apply to Sanctified Ground. It's okay, and I could see like, maybe let's go back in time to when I could play with my boy Dukama, the Destro Lock, and maybe that could be good. Just drop a thing on him and just let him fucking pop off. My bad. And that I don't know, but it just doesn't outweigh the value of Ray. And then on top of that, you just have two, in my opinion, completely essential, unplayable without talents, which sucks. Like having options would be nice, but having two talents that are just so essential and so much better than the other two just leaves like really small room for, that third talent, which is unfortunate, but I think a lot of classes in this expansion maybe struggle with that situation.
Nice. And then I've never even seen this talent before. Seraphic Crescendo? Is
Yeah,
that
that's a new one.
okay? That's new. New. Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I actually don't think it's terrible. I tested it a little bit yesterday for the first time, and the one thing that's nice about it is it lines up with Spirit
Angel.
of the Redeemer. So like that's obviously going to be really powerful, and I think the best part about that talent is the healing bonus lasts longer. So like when you him, the more you channel it, you get increased healing on the people who are getting healed. So I have without the talent, stacks 5 times and it does 20% increased healing for about 14 seconds. So that lasting 10 seconds longer, that's 20% increased healing. Or does it actually buff it as well? Okay, no. So the healing bonus only lasts longer. So it's going to be pretty good extra healing uh, for obviously 24 seconds. And the fact that it casts faster means that it's not going to take up your entire angel, which is really important. Um, I think it could have a place into like another comp, like really prominent right now is obviously SPDK. And
Mhm.
I think like something where like you have that default angel no matter what, like on the A bomb limb, triple go, where he pops his APOC and starts one shotting everybody. I think that's like one of those times where you're always gonna Spirit of the Redeemer there, no matter what, because obviously there's CC coming and there's a lot of damage going out. So I think that might be like a matchup where like Ray could be dropped. But like I said, Ray when you have a boomkin on your team is also really powerful. But let's say if I was like not playing with the boomkin, maybe playing something wacky, where like Ray could be a little sketchy if I'm the only person that can heal with it. I think like maybe taking that in a matchup like that could actually be really good. The only unfortunate part about it is I really wish I could get the talent under Divine Hymn, but it's just like I said, it's just a two-pointer, and we just don't got talents to spend like that.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
16% increased healing on a Divine Hymn that's also really fast cast on top of increased healing for 24 seconds. Like that's going to be an insane amount of throughput. Um, I tried it into Sidu, who was playing Augmentation DK Dragon last night,
Yep.
and I was doing 112k HPS for 6 minutes straight, which is obviously those numbers are crazy, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is I have no damage reduction, and regardless of how much, like, regardless of that number, my team was dead almost the whole game. It wasn't like a healthy 6 minutes. It was a 6 minutes of us fighting for our lives while I'm doing that much healing, and that's like kind of
Wow.
what I mean about that. Yeah, I can do like big numbers, right? But numbers don't tell everything when you have literally zero damage reduction cooldowns into something like that.
Mhm. Ouch.
Maybe, and let's we can move on to talking about tier sets because we haven't. I know you've been mentioning it, but are you using both your 2 and 4 piece
Yeah,
this season?
yeah, 4 piece for holy, 2 piece for disc is bis.
And they just basically make your prayer mending really good, right? Like it's
Yeah,
part of the
Yeah.
reason why prayer is your best heal now.
yeah. There's like I said, like a lot of palm modifiers. Something that's really not like the 2 piece is nice. You don't feel the 2 piece as much, but like obviously, it's definitely putting in work. Like, for when I see like a nice first palm of the game and it's a 14 stack instead of a 7 because I proc my 2 set, that's nice. It's nice to know that
Mm-hmm.
that palm's gonna be bouncing for a bit. But the four set is what is really good. It's what allows me to hit those like 110k chastises, like I said. Uh, it's rare for you to like be able to stack it up. Obviously, 15. So it's how much? Because it's cut in half, so it stacks 15 times, but 2%. So it's going to be 30% increase on healing or damage. It's rare that you're going to actually get to that max stack because you obviously have to use your holy words all the time. But there's definitely times where I can feel that the damage on that chastise is like, wow, that was fat, and it feels good for sure. It's nothing compared to Shadowlands tier set though.
Oh yeah. I didn't.
It,
I-
in Cosmic, that was probably the best tier set that any class may ever see.
What
Did
did I don't
you?
rem- What did it
Sorry.
do? I don't remember.
Um, the 4 set did okay, so I kind of forget the 2 set, but the 4 set was like the big thing where it was after you use a holy word, the next builder or like the next button that
Oh
resets it was
yeah.
gave it really fat CDR, and then you pair that with obviously the conduit that gave you even more CDR, and that was like those that combination of things is what really allowed that fluid amount of like not having to cast often. And
Mhm.
something I really liked about it is that there was like a skill ceiling to it. If you were really efficient, like there was times where I could sanctify a smite into a sanctify smite, and boom, my chastise is back 2 globals after doing it.
Oh,
Um, or I could serenity into a heal or into a palm because obviously you had harmonious as your legendary, so palm would reset your serenity. So it's like you serenity into a palm, and then your serenity's cut in half instantly. That allowed like a really fluid gameplay for Holy Priest, which is obviously why you have to cast so much now, is you don't have those things.
yeah. Um, I was going to ask something, and now I just forgot what I was going to ask.
Sorry about that. Kind of rambled a
No.
little
Oh,
bit.
for the stacking 4% from your set, your 4 piece.
Yeah,
Uh, do you have like? How do you track that?
I have a weak aura for all of it.
Of course. Okay.
That's something like I really did this expansion is like all of the quality of life weak auras, tracking all my procs in the same spot on all healers. I really like the way Chan thinks about this, especially. I heard him
Mhm.
talking about it, and obviously this is the era of add-ons, and I tried my best in Shadowlands to not get the Mez pack, right? Everyone talks about the Mez pack and how they get memed and the horns in your ear and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you don't play with it and you're competing, you're just hurting your team and yourself. And I heard Chan talk about it, like Peekaboo, obviously very, very raw UI.
Hmm.
We actually saw him change it a bit this season. Now he has raid frames and tracks things on Omnibar. Uh, which obviously that just goes to show how like mechanically insane he is with just raw skill alone, because like this guy does not see things that other people see, just simple as that,
Yeah.
just because he can't. And Chan said like he would never play with somebody who just has a UI that bad, because it's just you're hurting your team. And I remember uh the day actually I got the Mez pack was the same day Drake did. Drake was I was like, all right, Drake's getting it, bro. I'm doing it, man. I don't care anymore. And it was during that Destro lock era in Shadowlands where they would spend 8 shards and then they would get the instant bolt.
Hmm.
And I used to have to put the lock on focus and stare at it, because as a healer, like I need to know when that double bolt is coming or the game is over. And I
Yeah.
remember it used to take all my focus to see it, and then boom, got a weak or never thought about it again. It was
Mhm.
and yeah, I think like stuff like that is really important. That's why I did so much damage on disc too, is because I could see my modifiers and the way that I did damage. It would help my rotation to get max
Yeah.
value, and all that stuff will always add up. So
Of course. Of course. Interesting. I kind of figured as much, but I wasn't sure if it was
yeah,
that or if you're just like there's some in the buff bar you're just like tracking or but the weak core
yeah,
makes so much more sense.
yeah. I would hate to like scan the top of my frame or top of my buffs or whatever like that. That's
Right.
just it just
Uh,
takes away from the gameplay.
yeah. Um. So for stats though, what's the stats you're going for? I think I read somewhere it's like haste over mastery. Obviously,
Um,
versatility
one
is
second.
king. No worries.
Okay, it's actually a bit different than that.
Oh,
One second, I'm losing my voice.
I'm sorry.
We've
Okay,
been working
so
you
I,
hard,
so I,
Curney.
so I would say, yeah, I don't mind those. This is fun. So unfortunately, with the way the game is right now, mastery is the best stat for almost every single healer without question, and it's not almost not even close. Like I would say
Wow.
generally speaking, like I mean, Big Moran knows like for Resto Druid, people are giving up almost all of their versatility to have like obviously you want like good haste because like you want your hots to tick faster and you want to get certain breakpoints and then on top of that you want to be able to cast clone with a certain time. But aside from that, uh like I know like obviously I played like a lot of R Druid this season or this expansion.
Yep.
And you pretty much sacrifice like versatility at any cost. Like I think my Ardruid might have 17% verse. And there's a reason that you can do that on Ardruid because Mark of the Wild provides 3% and then you play like cars. So if you go bear form, then you're actually going to be at pretty decent verse when you have all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But I know verse like also increases like healing and damage,
Mm-hmm.
but mastery is so strong for Ardruid that the mastery alone will overpower the healing or the healing that you're losing um, for playing the mastery, and it's similar for other healers. Like Holy Priest has always been uh really good with like in with mastery. I used to play like full haste at the beginning of Shadowlands, and then mastery started becoming the wave. But I have like a weird rule in my head that I do that's a little bit different from other people, and I refuse to play the game without 10% haste at least on Holy
Mm-hmm.
Priest. I will never do it. I remember in Shadowlands, Sea had 3% haste, and I thought it was completely terrible. Like I was watching this guy cast a flash heal, and I could almost fall asleep before he finished the cast. And I think stuff like that is really bad, and it's especially bad for me because I play with
Yeah.
the sub rogue, and my offensive globals I value them really highly because you don't get a lot of them in this meta or in this expansion. Like it's a full-time job keeping a team alive.
Yeah.
Um, so when I can get my offensive globals, I think that having that haste, like, it changes the game for me at least. Like
Mm-hmm.
my stats right now are like 11% crit, which you just get from the tier pieces you have to play. And then I have about 14% haste in arena with like 42% verse and like 20 or 42% mastery and then like 27, 28% verse.
Wow.
Like hitting that 30% verse is always nice because that's a soft cap,
Yep.
but it's unfortunately, like I said, some stats are gonna outvalue the other ones. And yeah, because like I said, like Palm is gonna be 1 or 2 on your healing breakdown as Holy Priest, but the other 1 or 2 is gonna be Echo of Light, which is your mastery, and that's always gonna be up there without a doubt.
Okay.
And your mastery works whenever you heal, it leaves a hot for
Yeah,
as a percentage or whatever, like
yeah.
40% of the heal, it gets
And
converted to a hot.
exactly. And there's like a little bit of a skill ceiling into it because like if you Serenity, obviously, you don't want to use a smaller heal because then it's gonna make it the Echo of Light smaller,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So it's like that's something to think about. Obviously, it's like a kind of a niche thing, and it
Hmm.
maybe won't make the biggest deal all the time, but it definitely is something to think about because of how powerful that hot could be. You have a GS, you get CC'd, you have a Serenity with an Echo of Light, Palm bouncing around. That's gonna do a lot of healing. It can keep someone alive during the go for sure, or at least for the CC'd end.
Interesting. I'm actually surprised by that because I thought with the Holy Priest, you're hard casting more than like obviously a Resto Druid. It's more hots than that, the
Yeah,
instant cast. So
yeah,
that's why the haste made sense. But from what you're saying, I guess so long as you have enough haste that it feels smooth while you're casting, you're still casting within a
yeah.
reasonable time frame.
And something
Then,
I definitely will say is like I'm definitely one of like the only priests who is like putting this much priority on the haste. Like I know a lot of, I think maybe almost every other holy priest is playing sub 10%, like maybe 8% haste or like 7%. Um
wow,
and like and maybe like to some extent it's not as good as I think, but if it makes the class feel smoother to me,
yeah,
then then I
Well,
I like it a lot.
what I my problem, because I agree, I'm the same way. Like I know mastery is the best stat, but I want haste because, like, specifically as a druid, like
Yeah, yeah.
haste makes the game feel way more fluid. Plus, like, say I get put into a CC and all my hots expire. With haste, I can put up my hots quicker. It's a
Yeah,
very functional stat.
and
And
fortunately for Druid, like you actually get that option to drop the verse because, like I said, of the Lycaras. you know, when you're in caster form, you get haste from it, and then when you're in bear, you get verse. Like the way that talent works is just so good for druid because like you said, like having a lot of haste on druid feels amazing. Because druid is definitely the most global intensive healer in the game by miles. It's the only healer that makes my fucking hand hurt after I play it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely know what you mean, and I a lot of druids like you know you get a lot of haste from your tier. That's one thing that's really nice about druid tier is like the stats are just so good. Uh like which is part of the reason I think it outscales like some healers because you're forced to take tier in certain ways and the stats on most of the tier for most healers is actually really bad, but the force that you play on druid is just almost god tier. Like
And you
everything
need
but
it.
the helm is god tier stats. Like verse mass shoulders, haste mass chest, mastery gloves with crit, which is like, you know, the worst piece that you use, and then you get haste versus legs. Like the stats don't get better than that for our druid, which like, you know, allows that. Which unfortunately with Holy Priest, there's a lot of bad stat tier pieces.
Yeah. I yeah, I'm so disappointed in the fact that we have to wear PvE statted tier set.
Yeah.
Yeah, they,
Yeah.
reforging. We've talked about this
Oh,
before.
I like
Oh,
that. I
dude.
missed that.
Yep.
Yeah, how good would it be just to kind of reforge those stats? Like, I don't mind. Like, you know, like if they want to give us the PvE stuff, fine. Let us change the stats. That's like that's
Yeah.
a simple mechanic that's been in the game before.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, and it can only help the game because not only will it provide, you know, you to get the stats that you want, but it also can provide people with like, you know, a chance to like try different stats and like maybe find different stat weights and get different breakpoints easier. And it doesn't hurt the game in any single way.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah, I would love that.
Just to I want to move this through a bit more, but to round out the last of the additional stuff we always talk about, um, obviously there's no hard caps anymore. There's just soft caps. But is there any? You mentioned the 30% for versatility. Is there any other caps you're trying to like? Are you trying to hit a certain breakpoint on mastery because it does something, or is it just
Well,
a smooth curve?
unfortunately, so that is something I do on Druid.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was on TR, I did that on my Druid. I got to the second soft cap of mastery. Like I think like I had like 5,300. I forget the number, but you know I had pretty much the max amount of mastery before it started really DRing. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately on priest, like I said, I don't have the luxury of even making any of those breakpoints with the stats that I have.
Yeah,
Uh, which
I
sucks.
figured.
Like, but you know it is what it is. You do
Yeah,
what you can.
no worries. And best in slot racial.
This is a very circumstantial thing. So like I prefer to play Night Elf
Yep.
always on every character. It's my favorite race. I love the way it feels and obviously the outplay potential and you can use it for drinks. There's a lot of ways you can use it. But the best race for Holy Priest is just always going to depend on your matchup. Like if I ever think I'm going to fight a Boomkin, you have to be a gnome. Like there's a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
on ladder, bro, where I'm just fighting a Boomkin and I'm just on my Night Elf and I am just so mad that I am sitting that beam and I almost buy the race change right after, but I won't break. Um, so yeah, obviously you got to be gnome versus Boomkin. In the RMP mirror back in the day, you had to be an undead.
Yep.
Because you know if this priest is running at you and he's undead, and then you're not, well,
Mm-hmm.
he gets to punish you, and you get to do nothing in return.
Yep.
And then
Dark Iron against Feral. Was it?
nah, I probably wouldn't. I mean,
Okay.
maybe there is some like the thing is like I just don't think I should ever die to a feral team. Like I guess there's other healers where like you could get more value from dwarf, but I don't think dwarf is like I guess technically, you know, like if you're fighting like a DK SP or a DK feral rather and they were going to run you down and you knew it, then yeah, you know, it probably would be better to be dwarf for sure.
Okay.
But they all seem pretty circumstantial.
I think
Fair enough.
realistically speaking, if you could, you'd choose every race depending on what your matchup is. It's
Yeah,
just annoying. You gotta make the gamble.
like if I knew I was getting like obviously orcs can be priests now too. If I knew that a team's best strat was to kill me in a stun, I would roll up on that Orc Priest. And I
Yeah,
think
easier.
it goes similar for pretty much every class, besides like maybe a few. Like obviously
Mm.
Shaman, there's nothing better than an Orc. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, there's
I don't
just
know.
I
I
like
think
it.
dwarves are pretty cool.
dwarf has its place, but like the reason Shaman is absolutely, to me, it's been obviously since it's won almost every tournament in NA. And my team always loses. Like I don't think we've lost a series to a team that isn't playing a Shaman this year. Uh, the thing is that's so good about Shaman is it gets to be Orc for the stun reduction, and it can get out of Root Beam with that talent. That
Mhm.
combination of things is just incredibly broken.
Hmm.
But that's why I think because like what what would you really dwarf if you could get out of Root Beam on Shaman, right? Like I
True.
guess maybe like feral bleeds or whatever, but I don't know how scared you're gonna be when you have shortened stuns as well.
Exactly. And just to clarify, the talent that you're talking about, that's Spirit Walker's Grace.
Yeah,
Mm.
on that like right side, I believe,
Hmm.
and it
Okay.
just
Yeah,
lines up with Root Beam, and
it does.
obviously your trinket won't be on CD, whereas Dwarf it would be.
Absolutely, it's
I'm
very true.
laughing at chat every time Curney mentions something that's broken with a class. They call out nerfing that class.
I would, I would love Shaman to be nerfed. That's the moment my team never loses again. Uh,
Yeah. Uh,
unfortunately though.
let's get this last little bit though, Jake. What are the things you want to?
Yeah. So obviously we've literally just talked about absolutely everything Holy Priest. Now the next logical step is to talk about like compositions. So in twos and threes, even RBGs, like what would your ideal comps be?
Okay, well I can't speak too much about RBGs because I've never really RBG'd much. But for twos, actually, let me open my notepad. I think I wrote all these comps down. Oh, yep, there we go.
Sounds like you got a lot of stuff to say.
I just want to make sure I say the right ones. Okay, so for twos, you have some options, not as many as other healers.
Mhm.
But twos, Holy Priest is really good with Feral. It's really good with Rogue, Windwalker, DK, just because DK is good with everything. But Hunter is good, and then potentially some mage specs I could see being good in certain lights, like maybe like a fire mage H priest could be okay. It probably would lose to like literally almost anything that's good in twos, but the comp would be decent at the core. But I think you're mainly kind of like your best options on Holy Priest to play twos is going to be like Feral, Rogue, or Windwalker, and then Hunter as well. It's going to synergize the best with those classes and like with your toolkit, your CC, and your damage. Um, those are definitely your best bet in twos.
Okay.
For threes, in no particular order, I'll just list like to me these are like the comps where Holy Priest is maybe one of the best healers for it, and it would be Boomy Rogue, Windwalker Arcane, Sub Fire RMP, Um, and then Frost Mage Boomkin, and then maybe Frost Mage Destro. And then, like I said, I played a little bit of Fire Mage Feral, and that was pretty good too. And something I will say is like we were talking about how like Holy Priest is good in certain circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is where like I can explain it more. So like I said, I have no damage reduction cooldowns, right? So and the thing is about having no damage reduction cooldowns with Holy Priest healing kit is like you can run out of healing. There's moments where you physically have none left, and so that's when you need your classes on your team to be able to slow the game down for you or to be able to win really fast. It's kind of one or the other. So it's like you think about the Boomy Rogue. The Boomy Rogue provides both of them, which is why it's the best comp. You can win fast and you can slow the game down.
Mhm.
Um, and then that's why like a comp like a Wizard Cleave like Frost Mage Boomkin is really good. Like you're probably not going to win many games really fast, but both those classes are insanely good at slowing the game down, which
Yeah.
is going to enable you to like get more damage out and to be efficient with your healing. Um, and then Sub Fire is that's going to be like a complete glass cannon fire mage isn't that tanky because you literally play glass cannon. So you have low HP pool, but you do a lot of damage. Um, and in a comp like that, where the mage is so easily killable, that also makes the rogue easily killable when like they have pressure on both people. That's the worst situation to be in a holy priest is when two people on your team can die. Um, so that's why that comp is like it's good at its core, but in into most things that are in the meta, like you just lose. Like I feel like Subfire Holy RMP should probably never beat DKSP ever in a million years. And if they lose, they're messing up real bad.
Okay.
Mhm.
That makes sense. I mean, it's interesting that kind of dynamic, at least for threes, where okay, either I need a comp that can win fast, a comp that can slow it completely down, or do either one of those things. I think that's a
Yeah,
really interesting way of kind of understanding. Okay, this is what I'm able to play, and here are the comps that I can play around. I think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
nice to have
exactly.
flexibility.
Like if you were trying to play like Holy Priest TSG,
Hmm.
like that sounds completely miserable because a DK and a warrior can't slow the game down, and you're probably not going to die instantly to that team. Like if you know how to trade cooldowns, so
Yeah.
that's just going to be one of those situations where like, wow, Holy Priest is terrible here.
Hmm.
Where then that's why Windwalker Mage is so good. Like Windwalker now has like really good survivability, and so does Arcane Mage. So it's like
Yeah.
it's a constant slow the game down, and then on top of that, it's synergy like Holy Priest synergizes really well with Windwalker because it gives you um it's better than like, the in-cap Hodge and then the leg sweep alteration. Every 30 seconds you do an in-cap Hodge or then you do a leg sweep go. Something about Holy Priest that like provides a different angle to that comp is like my stun is ranged. I don't have to sacrifice my positioning for it. I could stun anybody for my Windwalker at any time. And I can also do it more often than Pally. So,
Yeah.
like, I think in certain ways, like maybe Holy Priest is better with Windwalker Mage, uh, than like other healers in certain matchups, of course.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's really interesting because that's like basically I was going to ask like how would you what's your kind of win condition, and I think you kind of touched on that
Yeah,
pretty well there because that's I mean that's clear as day like what the win conditions are.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I
It's just
suppose.
like you go on.
Also, gone. No,
No,
after
no,
you.
no, 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 no. After you, man.
I was gonna move on. So if you've got more to say, please
Nah,
do
nah. I
say.
was I was gonna keep rambling about the same thing. It's all good.
No. It's been really fascinating. Well, I mean, on that note, then flipping it around, like how would one kill you? Like how do we defeat a holy priest?
In threes, I would say the best way to kill a Holy Priest is by killing his teammates first. Something about Holy Priest is like obviously you have to cast a lot, so there is like a lot of awkward situations where like if you have no healing and then there's like you have to deal with a lot of kicks and then on top of that a team is like going you like that can
Hmm.
be like a really bad situation. But it's also Holy Priest is pretty slippery if you're playing it right. Like if you use a pillar well, then you pre-feather yourself, you're slowed or whatever, the melee are training you. And as soon as you're about to get to that corner, you fade, remove all slows, then you're gone. Fade feather, no
Hmm.
slows, you just line them on the pillar the whole time.
Yeah.
Um and I guess like something that could, make a holy priest die is like, if you have to swap somebody and you're near people, and then you could get punished. But generally speaking, holy priest can deal with like pressure well, like early in a game. If I was getting trained, like I would feel like really safe. And that's like also where it comes down to like, it's not like I'm alone in the arena. And if I'm getting trained by somebody, I'm gonna make sure as a healer, which is what all good healers should do when they're getting trained, is you should put the DPS in the worst position possible. And then you rely on your team. So like if I'm getting trained, I'm gonna drag them away from the healer, so then the enemy healer has to go into the middle of the map, and then he's easily CCable. And if he doesn't, then his teammates are just liable to just die in a terrible spot.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, you can learn more about this at skillcap.com. There's a positioning course where we mention exactly this, by the way. And that
And we do have an affiliate link as well.
Wow, go ahead.
You guys are funny.
No, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, I think all of that links up with what I thought you were going to say. But Brill. Well, that I mean, guess that is like everything about Holy Priest. The last question we like to ask at the end of this segment is just a general question. It's like, imagine if you had the most amount of money in the world, you were in charge of Blizzard, you like Bobby Kotick was reporting to you, like you had total control of everything. What is the one thing that you would change in World of Warcraft?
Oh man, well, I only get one.
Yep.
Yeah, there's only one.
Hmm.
It's a tough question. It is hard.
If I only get one, and it has to be a gameplay related thing that I would change.
No, it could be anything. It could
I
literally
could
be
change
anything.
something with the Blizzard. I could change something with the management, right?
Yeah, if you wanted to, like, let's say
Okay.
you've got unlimited amounts of
I'm hired. I'm gonna hire Thessia.
You're gonna hire Thessia. Okay.
I am, yeah. He's I've really something I've wanted so badly, like with all my powers. Like I want obviously to win, like more than anything else. That's the only thing I've ever cared about in anything. I'm insanely competitive, and I wish I wanted the winner interview so badly so I could have a platform to talk to like Blizzard
Mhm.
and truly. And I have this idea because I was a professional Fortnite player before I came back to WoW for about 3 years. And something that Fortnite actually did really well, which wasn't many things, so this goes to show, is we had a Discord with like the top 100 NA pros or whatever, and it was a Discord with the people who were managing Epic Games and managing the tournaments and the servers and all the everything. There was one-way communication between the best players in the game and the people who are making it. And if I could have had a winner interview one time this season, that would be the first thing I would say is I want Blizzard to have a Discord, and I don't care if people have to sign an NDA where we can't tell anything that's happening in the thing or whatever, but I want to be able like the best players, like the people who are playing the most WoW at the highest level, they should have the voice that they listen to. I know that's unfair to some people. Everyone wants to have an opinion these days, but at the end of the day, I think something that's a problem is too many people are too entitled to their opinions. Like obviously, you can have your opinions, but the thing is Blizzard, it's hard for them to listen and make everyone happy. And I think there's a lot of people saying the wrong things, which is also just going to delay the time it takes to fix the game. And that's why I want there to be a player Discord with the best players from each region, preferably like the AWC competitors, and then a few other people I'm sure like deserve to have an opinion. Um, and not only would this provide one-way communication to fix the game, because also on top of this, like I said, like I almost have no class identity at this point. I don't care if Holy Priest is just completely broken and the best healer in the game. I don't care about that anymore because I'm prepared to play any healer at any time in any tournament, and
Mhm.
so is everybody else at this point in WoW. I just want it to be more fair, of course, and the game to be better, and that would be a start because like I mean even pro players have really bad opinions like all the time. Like I'll say it, man. Like Sidu has had some pretty bad takes like throughout the years, uh, and that's okay. Like not everyone can. He's got his own way to look at it. But what would happen in a Discord like that is Sidu could say one of those things instead of tweeting it and having all his fans say that it's such a good idea. Whereas like
Mhm.
players like me, Calvish, and Nick, like we don't have like virtual popularity like that. Like it doesn't entitle him more to an opinion. It's not like he's just so much better than us or anything like that. It's the fact that he has a voice and he has people who will back his voice. But if Cedar were to like maybe say one of those things in that Discord, then there could be 10 other pro players that would be like, oh wow, that would not be good for the game, and here is why, and this would be a better option. And then we could bounce ideas off of each other from different perspectives of different people playing different classes and different roles. And
Mhm.
I think that's something that Fortnite did really good is like we had testing events and we would do like scrims with like the admins and we tell them how the servers performed and if this meta change was good or bad for the game, and they could choose to listen or not, but at least they had our opinions and they had them in one place. And I really wish I won a cup so I could have said all these things because I truly believe that that is how the game is going to be fixed for the long term. And yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I think what you're there's a difference there, and you kind of highlighted it. Is a lot of people have opinions, but not many people have informed opinions.
Yeah, and to some extent, like without a doubt, people like that whole subreddit. Like, let's talk about one of Cedar's worst takes of all time. He said kidneys should be dispellable. Um, that right there, like, obviously, like he deserves to be made a fool of, and not only not by like the universe of the 1200 rogues who are like, wow, that's so bad, and they're attacking him personally and all that,
Mhm.
but like if we could have like a constructive thing or
Yeah.
conversation, and like
Yep.
that's not a good idea. I really really
I,
wish that they would
mhm.
do something like that.
I,
Mm.
I did I did like I like that idea though. I like what you're talking about, and I think that's
Well,
something
the
that
spelling,
yeah I
spelling the
think
key. That's a great idea. Yeah, obviously.
no I think the Discord. I think that is something that that the devs at least on the PvP side have missed out on. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure on the PvE side they have something like that.
I
I'm
would
sure they do.
assume. I mean, like, and to be honest, I feel like obviously, like, I've been in like the esports scene like a long time,
Hmm.
and with multiple other games, and WoW is like the way it's ran is it is terrible. Like, there's no way around it. And obviously WoW is like a harder esport to grow because there's barrier to entry. It's not like someone who's never played CS:GO couldn't tune into a CS:GO game and watch this guy headshot 5 people and he would know that that was insane.
Hmm.
Like, when my IRLs were watch me, like, as they used to watch me play Fortnite, they knew exactly what was going on. But now they watch me play WoW or something, they don't know what's happening. They've never
No,
played WoW. How
no,
could they?
no,
And
exactly.
that's why it needs to be taken care of so well, is because there's no room for fans to be lost, and
Yeah.
Hmm.
the game has to grow, and for the game to grow it needs to be better and it needs to be ran better. And unfortunately I just don't think that they take the WoW esports thing very seriously, which it sucks, but
I,
Yeah.
I think they do have like they obviously we do there is a Blizzard WoW esports
yeah,
team.
yeah,
I
they
think
have a team, of course, yeah.
what they need to do along what you're talking about, Curney, I think what they really need to do is they need to, as you rightfully say, hire people that love this game, and especially hire people that love WoW PvP. Like they
And
did that with
that's
Healing Stat, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up Thesia. I've never talked to him personally. I have like immense respect for him as a player. He's an absolute god for sure. If he wasn't banned, we actually were gonna try to get him as our fourth for a cross region fourth.
Hmm.
Not gonna lie,
Yeah.
but um, something I've noticed, like I said, I've only watched his stream, never talked to him personally. I just respect his gameplay, but on top of his gameplay, I've never, not one time, seen like a bad, biased take, like ever, from what he's like.
No.
Everything he said that I've ever seen, and maybe I haven't seen something, but like it all is balanced, and the guy plays so many classes that he's like looking at it the approach that I would look at it, or I would think I would look at it, because like I said, there's no class identity. I don't care if Holy Priest is the best healer. I just want to be able to play matchups on it, and not just I don't ever want to be forced to just play a shaman that I have 1 week of reps on into Absturge, or if I don't, I just automatically lose. There is zero chance of victory. And I really just wish that was like never the case. Because back in Mob, there was unfavorable matchups for sure. Like, jungle was, it should lose to LSD back then. But I know for a fact that, like, me, Dylan Wallabear, that was the team I played with. We would beat LSDs all the time. We beat Chan, Talbadar, and Soda. BlizzCon winning LSD, we would beat them
Hmm.
too. And that's like the feeling I want, is like, because there's times where I load into an arena and I actually feel hopeless, and that's a terrible feeling to have.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
Like, this whole AWC, this has been the hardest AWC on me. I've
Hmm.
had to play a lot of classes, and mainly because it stems from I picked the wrong ones. I didn't play dragon and I didn't play shaman, and
Yeah.
it just turns out that I kind of needed to play either of them to win. Because like I said, I only want to win. I don't care about doing well. I want to win, and
Well,
unfortunately, I played a ton of Druid, and then it ends up Druid is just not going to get it done for us. Disc gets nerfed, not getting it done for us. Okay, I'm back on the Shaman that I haven't played since the Gauntlet last season, going against Absturge with 5 days of prac, and I performed
Yeah.
like well, but at
Yeah,
the
you
end of
did
the day,
great.
Yeah.
I believe that we would have won if I was better at Shaman, and that's a terrible feeling to have, especially obviously I'm letting my team down,
Mm-hmm.
and I wish that wasn't the case. Uh, so yeah, I really think that they need to hire, and I know for a
All right.
fact if they offered him a job, he would take it.
I believe it. I'd hope so, at
That's
least.
awesome, though. That's awesome.
I'm not
It,
sure. Yeah, yeah, lots of different things. I think, unfortunately, we do have a time wall tonight. So
Yeah,
as
sorry,
much
I
as
was rambling.
no, it's all good.
we could
I love
talk
it.
about this for hours. We could talk about it for hours. It's so annoying. We
Yeah,
can't.
Well, and that's what I love about the podcast is that we have these conversations and we get to hear um these high level thoughts and the and really like I think that's a true what you just said is a true feeling. Like if you're at a competitive level trying to win and all you want to do is win really and have
yeah,
it feel fun at the same time and you end up with a class that ends up getting or a spec that ends up getting nerfed, that just feels bad that now you're going in it's like running into an arena with a hand tied behind your back,
yeah,
meanwhile you have
yeah.
an evoker flying all over the place, bravo
Especially
stomping you.
Yeah, especially with meta shifts that are so frequent. Like the
Yeah.
meta changes multiple times throughout a season,
Mm-hmm.
and like I don't mean to like keep you guys longer, but obviously at this before AWC started, Roguelock Destro was the
Mm-hmm.
best comp, or Roguelock Priest, and we were the best Roguelock Priest in the world without a doubt in my mind. And before we could play one game in tournament, all three like it got completely gutted to the point where the best Destro lock, who is easily Nick without question, I have no doubt saying that, uh, could not even play Destro anymore. It, we got completely crushed in the first week, thinking that we still had a chance to play Destro,
Yeah,
and we just didn't,
Yeah, exactly.
and that
Exactly.
sucks.
that
Well,
does suck.
speaking of, no, actually, no, I was going to try and segue there. I don't
Nope.
think I could have done without it sounding bad. So maybe we just move on and go to the shout
Okay.
outs.
Yeah, let's just do some quick shout outs. I guess to you first, Curney. Is there anybody you want to shout out?
Nah, just me and my team. If anyone's watching, me and my team, we were streaming a lot. Before the season started, I fell off on the streaming, but Calvish and Nick are still streaming. I need to get a new PC, but hopefully when the season ends, we're gonna stream a lot again. And also I do hourly VOD review. It's something that a lot of people have been really enjoying, and I think it can help a lot of healers for a
Yeah,
lot of things. And I offer it for all healers, of course, and even DPS. It can help, pretty much anybody. I played the game all day, every day, so
that's awesome of you.
that's pretty much it.
So
Hit me up.
how do people get a hold of you for the VOD review then?
Just DM me on anything: Twitch, Twitter, Discord. My Twitch and Twitter are the same, Curney1K, and then my Discord is just Curney, and yeah, we can
All
talk
right,
more on any of those things if that interests anybody.
cool. Well, I think that kind of also hit the next spot where I was going to ask where people can find you. So two
Oh,
for
my
one
bad.
there. That's good. No, that's good. That's good. Big, do you have any shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, shout out to Muffin Rat. I was just browsing Twitch. I saw Muffin Rat was streaming. An
Love
old friend
Muffin
of
Rat.
mine from we used to play together on Burning Blade as a server,
Wow.
and he's been a Destro Warlock main for all these. He never respects, just plays Destro Warlock.
Yeah,
Only plays Warlock.
he's a god tier dueler as well.
He
I'll give
he
him
is
that.
an amazing dueler, yeah. So you can catch him in Element Forest. If you beat him in a duel, he'll probably rage at you, but it's all he's very passionate. So
Yep.
shout out to Muffin Rat.
That's awesome. Uh, Jake.
I'm going to shout out to Thesia. I hope you get hired.
Yeah, I hope he sees that. I would love if someone sends him a clip of this. I really do. I think that he could save the game, and he's also played every expansion. At the
There we go.
highest level and every role, every class. I think he's perfect for the
That's it.
team.
That's it. Well,
Nice.
I'm a believer in our Lord and Savior Thesia, so
Me
I
too.
believe.
If he doesn't get
What about you?
yeah, that's good. I'm going to shout out my wife, who traveled out of town with our stepdaughter and gave me a little bit of time to be home alone and battering it. So I'm gonna play World of Warcraft till my fingers hurt.
That's it.
Nice. Very nice.
That's the
Indeed.
dream.
All right. Well, since Curney's already said where he can be found on the interwebs, Big, can you tell the listeners where they can find us?
Oh, I can do that. You can contact us directly with a tweet to @technically_PvP or by an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can also join our discussions on the Bonus Roll Productions Discord.
And you can visit the Bonus Roll website to find the podcast directory with us and many other great shows at www.bonusroll.gg. This directory also has a review system, so head on over there and tell everyone what you think of your favorite shows, including our own.
Indeed. And as always, links for everything we talked about are going to be in the show notes. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll chat with you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See ya.